Hey everybody, and welcome back to another severe storm film or weather forecast. In this forecast, it's all about Milton, so let's jump right into it here. We have our monstrous Hurricane Milton continuing to move off towards the north in the northeast here this evening. It just went through an eye replacement cycle, so it is continuing to strengthen here. You notice the eye starting to widen and open up more. That's a sign of weakening pressure, which means strengthening hurricane, and these cloud tops are starting to get cooler on the northeastern end, so that's a sign convection is starting to get going again. And I wanted to tell you, just for consideration, that this is not even on the Gulf of Mexico loop current yet. All right, it is still not even on it yet. And when it gets on it, which is the highest ocean temperatures of the entire ocean, it is going to go berserk in terms of intensity. All right, now it's not going to follow this loop current here. It might look like it because I drew that line ahead of it, but it's not. It's actually going to get on the loop current, intensify, and then make a turn at Florida here. And we've been talking about this, forecasters have been talking about this for days and days now. So you guys should know that this is going to make a very, very devastating landfall on Florida tomorrow afternoon or evening, potentially bringing some very, very significant impacts here. And where this hurricane tracks is a big deal. All right, and I'm going to tell you why here in just a second here, but you notice that the National Hurricane Center still has a ton of spread of where this makes landfall here from north of Tampa, west of Orlando, basically south of I-4, and down to the Cape Coral region. All right, there is still a ton of spread. I hate to say this, but there still is. And if this were to make landfall north of Tampa Bay would have the most extreme hurricane they've ever had. And it's going to be a devastating ride for them through the day tomorrow and in towards the overnight hours here. But again, there's still a lot of spread. But the main model guidance does like to take it into Tampa Bay, unfortunately, and that's where the most storm surge would be on the very southernmost part of the storm, while the northernmost part of the storm was likely going to see the flooding rains and the wind gusts. And you're probably wondering why I didn't mention the landfall category there. It's because I don't think it's going to weaken that much. All right, and I hate to spill the beans right now, but in my personal opinion, I don't think this is going to weaken that much. I will show you why here. Right now here we have our 250 millibar jet stream here, and that basically is where all the wind shear is here from top to bottom. So we're going to be taking a look at that here, and you notice as of this evening, all the strongest wind shear is north of Florida here, and we're going to see what happens here as we head in towards tomorrow afternoon. Notice here comes Milton as we head in towards tomorrow afternoon with that driving current trying to take it up. With this wind, it's likely going to determine where this makes landfall. All right, I definitely predict it's going to make landfall somewhere in here. All right, it's definitely still uncertain though, like I said before, but the biggest thing about this is that the wind shear, the strongest wind shear, is so far north that this will not even weaken this hurricane that much. All right, now this is not your perfect ideal conditions like, oh my gosh, this major 190 mile an hour category 5 like we saw yesterday. Not at all. I do not think we're going to see that intense of a landfall, but I don't think it's going to be far from a category 5. All right, I think if that, it's going to be at the least a low-end category 4 because of how weak this shear is. All right, look at that. You still have very, very weak shear in the area here. And watch as this makes landfall somewhere probably between Wednesday or tomorrow evening into early Thursday morning. All of the strongest jet energy and shear is all towards the north. And look, we have another piece of jet energy coming in here, but it's going to be too late because Milton will have already made landfall here and will obviously continue to weaken significantly as it gets on the ride with the jet stream off of the Florida coast. And now that we're done talking about wind shear and we know that wind shear is not going to be a huge issue for this here, now we got to take a look at how much moisture content is in the atmosphere and how much dry air is circulating around this hurricane. All right, so you see we got tons of ample dry air very aloft in the atmosphere. All right, this is aloft. This is not at the surface. Note that here, but this is still going to make an impact if it gets into the hurricane. All right, and I'll show you what I mean here as we head in towards tomorrow morning. This is a new model run coming out, so we're both looking at this for the first time here, me and you, the viewer here. You can see that we have tons of dry air that is trying to get into the southern portion of the storm, and you can see a little sliver of dry air right there, which isn't really going to do much, except maybe it's going to decrease the intensity of those rain bands. I was thinking of what I wanted to say there. Sorry about that, guys. A little brain fart there. But notice as we go in towards tomorrow afternoon, all right, the dry air still has yet to wrap into the hurricane, if at all. All right, this latest model run is very bullish on any dry air getting into this storm. And I kind of doubt it too at this point. All right, we might get a little bit of dry air on the eastern coast of Florida, but that's not where our hurricane's going to be. So we're not going to be worrying about that. Obviously, we hope dry air gets into this, but right now this model is definitely not showing that in a very big manner here. But as we also take it in towards tomorrow afternoon, I wanted to point out the ample moisture with this. All right, and you also see those wind barbs here. You can see these are southerly winds on the eastern end of the hurricane and northerly winds on the western side of the hurricane here. And we obviously have really strong westerlies north of the hurricane, and that's where all that wind shear and all that straight jet energy is that will likely not tear this apart at all. So the dry air is the only big source we have that could delete this hurricane. Well, not delete it, but you know what I mean, weaken it so that it won't be a major hurricane here. But regardless, we are going to have a serious threat for storm surge here, and that's what I was going to get to. You know that we have the southerly flow on the eastern end, right? All right. This is going to be shoving water all against the Florida coastline here. So that is for everybody on the west coast of Florida. This is not just for the people that are getting south of that. That's where the 15 to 20 foot storm surge will be. However, I do think there's going to still be at least a little bit of storm surge north of the storm, all right? So do not let your guard down there. We are going to have ample moisture flowing here, and it worsens significantly as we head in towards tomorrow evening. Notice that we're now starting to scrape moisture from the northern Gulf, and we're going to wrap it around, and it's going to crash into land. All right, this is why I have huge storm surge concerns for this particular area of Florida. All right, take this as a grain of salt, but I definitely think these coastal areas in this yellow here, from probably here to here, is going to get some very powerful waves hitting land and shore as we go in towards tomorrow evening here. And these waves are going to be coming in probably with the wind at 50 to 100 miles an hour. So these waves that come in are going to really cause flooding. Not only that, but significant damage on the beaches. All right, so make sure you evacuate while you can. You do not have much more time left unless you make your way out overnight, which that probably won't be a good idea too, because if we rewind this here, notice how that moisture is already going to start moving in to southwestern Florida. All right, the storm surge is going to start when the high tide starts tonight. That's around 11, 12 o'clock, I think. 11 p.m. to 12 a.m., I don't know. But it's supposed to be overnight tonight, and it's likely going to start in southwest Florida. And obviously, as the storm approaches, it's really going to worsen significantly everywhere, depending on where you are, getting the 15 to 20 foot storm surge, likely south of the storm. However, like I said, significant storm surge is still not out of the question north of it. So make sure you have a hurricane kit if you are staying for some reason, and make sure you keep an eye on your neighbors and your pets and animals. All right, and now one of the most important things aside from storm surge is obviously the wind that's going to be really intense inside of this storm here. Notice these pinks and these whites areas here along the eye wall. Like I said, we have a 4-direction eye wall here, so this is definitely going to be packing a punch from all directions here. Everyone is going to get wind from this in some shape or form. So these are extreme 100 plus mile an hour winds in the eye wall here. You can see max wind is 125.1 knots as we head in towards tomorrow morning here. Probably a bit higher than that if that's still on the loop current. We're going to have to keep an eye on that there. And as we go in towards tomorrow afternoon, these winds are really going to rev up. All right, I think this will become a Category 5 again tomorrow afternoon before being weakened some by maybe a little bit of a dry air intrusion. But like I said before, like, it's not a lot. So I'm starting to doubt that we'll even get any weakening off of this, unfortunately. All right, so that's why I'm saying Western Florida is going to get massively major impacts. No matter what category the storm is, you can see the really powerful southerly to westerly winds that are going to be crashing water ashore, especially in this eye wall. All right, if you're on the southern portion of the eye wall, get ready. That's where the big storm surge will be. And like I said, waters are calm right now and they're starting to kick up, I bet. You're probably seeing some higher waves getting on the coastlines there of southwest Florida. They're going to steadily increase into the overnight. And then, like I said, by the time we head in towards tomorrow morning and afternoon, we're likely going to be dealing with a ton of flooding along the west coast, mainly before the eye wall. All right, that's before all the wind hits, and then we got another burst of energy that's going to come in with 150 plus mile an hour winds potentially. All right, I still am not ruling out a Category 5 landfall or a high-end Category 4 landfall on the west coast of Florida. All right, the models are continuing to be bullish on the intensity here, and weaken it to a 946 millibar low by the time landfall happens here, which I don't know when that time will be. But whenever it is, like I said before, it is going to pack a punch with the storm surge. All right, again, if you're on the southern portion of the storm, get ready. This is nothing to take lightly with these strong winds. All right, like I said, the ocean waves are going to be wind driven. All right, and if the wind's blowing from the south at 110 miles an hour, you're going to have waves flying in at you at 110 miles an hour. All right, so please make sure that you are weather aware through the day tomorrow. Obviously, I hope you guys would have evacuated, but like I said, for the people who stayed, not mad at you, but you guys need to really get prepared since you only have a few more hours left until impacts start to occur in the western Florida region as we head in towards early tomorrow morning when things will really start to go downhill. All right, everybody, that was all for this update here. Make sure you stay safe, like and subscribe if you're not already. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.